I often say on my channel, coming up with an original design is really hard. If you come up with something that's a little bit wild, people sort of dog it because they don't like the look for one reason or another, or they say it's not practical. But if you go with the mainstream and you just make another homage to a Rolex or an Omega, people go crazy and say that you're just copying. So there really is only a fine line of middle ground where you can actually get this right. So when a brand goes out there and takes a chance to do something very, very different, it is really a big risk. They're putting a lot of their own money into these brands, and obviously if it goes wrong, they lose all of that money. Today, we're taking a look at a brand called Richard Harvey, and what they have done is something completely different. They've come up with a rectangular case. It has a crown guard. There's a very layered, loomed dial. A very overall interesting looking watch that's surprisingly comfortable, and I think all of the elements come together really well. So let's flip the camera and take a look at a Richard Harvey that is a completely different design that I've never seen before. So here they are, and I have to say I am really impressed, not only with the design of these watches, the lume. I really like the inspiration behind them. So it's inspired by a pilot's attitude indicator, and I had to actually look that up. These watches are called the Attitude, and that's what that shape in the middle of the dial is, that line with the sort of a bulge in it. That's meant to be a plane, and that's lines up with the horizon in a pilot's cockpit. It's an indicator, it's a gauge essentially. And that's what the dial is inspired by, and I believe the case as well. However, the case is very different, and I wouldn't say it takes inspiration from a gauge. When you look at it, it's actually rectangular, so it's more of a tonneau shaped case. This is sort of a silver stainless steel covered case, so it's PVD coated, and then this one is in black. This is a stealth version, and I really like this. The name of the brand is Richard Harvey, and it's actually owned by a veteran. So this was designed by a US Navy veteran, I believe. So pretty cool. And obviously, I like to support veterans. So that is something that makes me very happy. And what he has done here is giving you a watch with 100 meters of water resistance, pilot inspiration. You have a sapphire crystal with AR coating that works actually really well. He designed a dial with a lot of depth and a lot of lume. I really love the big sword hands on here. You have lume on the second hand, and you have sort of a sandwich dial that is not really a sandwich dial. It's just sort of a minute track, and the indices are sort of cut out and then placed on top of a black dial or a blue dial, depending on the watch that we're looking at, which looks really good. And it gives you a lot of depth. And then you have that little indicator in the middle, obviously non-functioning because this is not really a gauge, but it looks good. And I actually didn't know what it was when I first saw the watch, like I said, and I didn't think it looked out of place at all. The only thing I would say that looks weird about these watches and the design in general is that there's a lot of space between the crown and that crown guard. That crown guard does not move, and you do get a screwed in crown. So it does make it a little bit difficult to screw in the crown. Screwing the crown out is actually pretty easy. When you go to screw it back in, it's hard to get enough pressure, I guess you would say, to actually get it to thread. So that's the only thing I would say is weird about this watch. In fact, I think it would look good without that crown guard, in my opinion. Now, that is my opinion, but I think this would look really cool without it. I think it looks good with it, but without it, it would look maybe a little bit cleaner, I guess, but I do like it. Turning it on its side, it's sort of like a bow tie. So it's thin in the middle and then it bows out to either side, and it's affixed with a, like a hex screw. So really nice materials is what they've used here. And this is the stealth version. This is my favorite. I really think this is a good looking watch. And it has a stainless steel case back. And then on the crown, there is a little, I think it's a propeller. So I think that's their logo, and that's what they've used there. Then you have a tang buckle on here. The tang buckle is really nice. Sort of reminds me of Panerai, I guess you would say, and then it says Richard Harvey on there. The name of the brand probably will irk some people, but they went with an RH on the dial, and it's in a script, so it actually looks pretty good, in my opinion. Again, I think this looks very, very good. Flipping it over, and on the back it just says RH, and then Richard Harvey, 100 meters of water resistance. You have a screwed-in crown, screwed-in case back. Strap here is a raw black leather strap. On this version, I forget what they call this version, it's sort of a colorful version. This gets a raw brown leather strap. You have a date at the 4 or 5 o'clock position, in between the 4 or 5 o'clock position. Definitely could do without the date on this watch, especially considering there's a lot going on the dial. However, because of that, you actually don't see the date very, very well. So I like that. So that's, again, my own thing. You know, you have some screws here that are holding in that sort of layer of the dial, and then you have a chapter ring that sits on top of that. And this is also powered by a Swiss movement. So it's powered by an Ronda R150. That is a movement that I have spoken about here on my channel many times. Really great movement, very reliable movement, actually a very good looking movement as well, and a pretty thin movement. We'll do measurements in just a second. This is $699, and I think this is a really cool design for that price. I'm not really sure how they make money on this, because everything you see here is pretty bespoke. So you're getting a very bespoke case, that crown, the crown guard, that is not easy to do. And then the dial, I'm not sure. The hands are bespoke to this watch. There's a lot going into this. Maybe the sapphire crystal and the movement are the only things that they could really buy off the shelf. But that being said, everything else to do is pretty damn hard. This also comes with 2 straps. I'm not even going to show it to you on the other strap because it is a NATO strap, and I don't think that this design should be put in a NATO strap, in my opinion. It does come with the NATO strap. Put it on a different watch. I think these straps that they're on look phenomenal with this watch. It works really well. This is a very modern design, in my opinion, and I think a NATO strap sort of doesn't go with it, in my opinion. Again, I think that I would not use a NATO strap on here. Very quickly, I'm going to do the measurements. I'll show it to you on my wrist, and then we will do a quick Lume shot. So this measures in at the case. It's around 41 millimeters. So it's hard to get an accurate measurement on it because of the way that the case is shaped and that crown guard. But with the crown guard, obviously, you're getting a much larger measurement. We're talking about 48 millimeters. Does not wear like a 48 millimeter. Sort of reminds me of a Panerai or maybe a Bell & Ross, the way a Bell & Ross would fit. That's how this fits. So you do have a very short lug to lug, and obviously since it's on a strap, it does go straight down, and it measures in around 46 millimeters. And the thickness here is just about 11.5 millimeters. So same goes for the Stealth version. So that's how they are sized. Very quickly, I'm going to show you what I have on my wrist, and then I'm going to throw both of these watches on my 7.5-inch wrist. So today I have my Romain Jerome. This is the, I believe this is called the Spacecraft. I always want to say Subcraft, but I believe the Subcraft sold out, and there haven't been many on the gray market recently. I definitely want to get one. That was designed by Alan Silverstein, I believe, and this one was designed by Eric Giraud. So both great designers. Alan Silverstein, obviously better known. There you go. On my 7.5-inch wrist, it's like a 41 millimeter watch, but with that crown guard, it definitely wears a little bit bigger, but not really, because you have a very, very tight lug to lug. So I think you could pull this off if you have a smaller wrist than me pretty easily. And this is the Stealth version, and this is the, I'm calling it the colorful version. I don't know what the actual name of this version is. I apologize. I could put that in the description. Very hefty watch. This is a solid piece of metal. These are both stainless steel with a PVD coating, and this is just basically a brick of stainless steel. So a very substantial watch on your wrist because of weight, not because of size. In general, I think a very good looking watch. And there you go. The lume is excellent on here. You can see that all of those little dashes in the dial are lumed, and the hands, which are big, have lume in them. And of course that second hand, mostly lumed, which is awesome, especially on a sports watch like this. 100 meters of water resistance, excellent lume. You really can't go wrong. I think this looks great. Do you think Richard Harvey got it right? Tell me down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Do you think this design works? Do you like the look of the design? Tell me what you think down in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It's super helpful for the channel and I very much appreciate it. I'll catch you guys in the next video.